How my computer is for this.
You're about to be famous. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and what you want to talk about today.
Oh, myself. I don't know. What do you want to know about myself?
Well, do you have a business? Where do you
Yeah,
live?
I have a business. Started it, this third year now, third season.
Okay.
So I actually got your course, I guess, kind of right before I started that. I have zero
Oh,
back.
you've had the course for like 3 years?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think, right? Because this is the third year, and I got it. Yeah, early on. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, no background in the painting business at all. I'd like painted kind of on the side a little bit before that,
Yeah.
just kind of like a moonlighting thing. Kind of took to it a little bit, and then decided I just wanted to, I don't know, make a living out of it. So I looked into the whole course thing and got that going, and then kind of took off from there.
Awesome, man. What were you doing? Sorry, what were you doing before?
Actually, well, before that, I was just kind of like a seasonal guy, like a ski patroller and a raft guide, like just total kind of seasonal, like bum guy like that. I live in Washington State, so it's a lot of
Okay.
that stuff's going on.
Yeah, awesome.
I want to do something more serious. I fished in Alaska for 2 summers too, just like kind of the weird seasonal things like that. And then I was like, crap, I want to kind of make a career because I don't want to be like some 40-year-old raft guide, ski patroller guy. Not that there's anything
Yeah.
wrong with that, but that just wasn't me. So I wanted to
Yeah.
happen. So
Nice.
I got the course. And actually, to be honest with you, that first year, I kind of had like a real big trouble with me not painting.
Yeah.
I was like so green to the whole thing that I pretty much like took the course and like watched the whole thing and like used all the templates and things like that and pretty much just went out with my truck and just painted all myself that year. And I did like 70,000 or something that year. I mean, it was pretty good for like myself, and because I just like people just started because I was really the only game in town because it's a pretty small market, and so people were like, oh, this guy's a cool guy, knows what he's doing, kind of.
Nice.
So I made good money, and then really like last year, kind of hired some people, started going with that, and then but I was still painting on the side. And so this year has been the first year I've really like in earnest like put down the paintbrush and really started going for it, and it's
Got
been
it.
really good. So we've sold over 300,000 so far. So
Dude,
this year.
you
So
say we, do you have someone working with you?
I just have a habit of doing that. Just
Okay.
because it's just like we as a
Yeah.
painting,
No,
my wife works
that's
with
fine. I
so
do the same thing. I say it at Painting Business Pro. It's like me and Carl, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just curious if you had a team. So you've sold 300K, man. Good for
Yeah.
you.
No, and I do have some help in a way that my wife helps me. She's like, because we have employees too, and she's actually has a big HR background. Like she used to
Got
work
it.
as like the HR manager for Stevens Pass, which is like a big ski resort, and so
Yeah.
she's really dialed on that. So she is a huge player in it. She works like 15 hours a week because we have a little newborn too, so she can't work.
Congratulations, man. I got one on the way.
Thanks, awesome. Yeah, yeah. It's October, so she's 8 months old now. So
Very cool, man. Very cool. So, have you done any painting this year?
anyway.
Painting.
Oh no, zero. I haven't touched a brush at all. Zip zero.
Beautiful.
So
And how are you doing all your marketing?
that's funny. The marketing thing it's such a small town that like a lot of it's word of mouth. Like that's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is mostly now. It just kind of comes in. We've done some lead services like Home Advisor, who's the devil, is kind of the only one who's here. Like we have Painter Choice. We get like a lead every other week or something.
Right. Small markets, tough.
It's
Yeah.
so small. But it's actually worked out. We've actually sold like a couple of the jobs have been big jobs we've gotten through that. And we've sold every one of them but one. There's been like five or so.
Yeah. Well, it's exclusive, so you're the only one getting them, and they're good leads, and there's
Yeah,
no
for sure.
competition. So.
And then Porch is okay, but actually one of our biggest marketing thing was we went to like a home show. It was like this really big home show in Wenatchee that, we signed up for that thing. It was like $600 and it got us like 18 leads on the spot. We got like 250 numbers.
Wow.
And we saw, I mean, it's like half of the things that we sold this year.
Awesome.
So that was huge. I so recommend going to home shows. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We were the only people there, like only painters there. And we just like engaged everybody, and it just it got the whole thing. It took the whole business to a whole new level because we just
Well, and I think honestly, man, I think the lesson out of that for everybody else is every market's different.
right.
In a smaller market, you're not going to be able to leverage lead services as much,
Mm-mm.
but smaller market, way less competition. So you should be able to get up high on Google pretty quickly. You
Yep.
should have a higher sales rate, close ratio.
Yep.
The leads you do get are all yours. Home show sounds like it's working. And that's why like you kind of got to test this stuff. Door to door would still be good, but it's a smaller market, so it'll have a lower ceiling
Yeah, for sure.
on the upside on that. So
Well, it's really true. Our sales rate is really good, and and it's kind of cool because we've built like a really wonderful name for ourselves here. Like we are the painters kind of, and we're the kind of the only show in town. We have, 5-star reviews, and we're just on top of Google, and people just like say that all the time. It's like, boy, I just looked up painter and you came up, so we gave you a
Beautiful.
call. So, like,
It's a great example of a small town thing. So congrats on how you started this year. That's exciting. Are you using subcontractors or all employees?
So half and half, pretty much, almost. I'd say 3/4 employees, quarter.
And what's the population of your area?
So I knew you're gonna ask that. So like the whole big super area, like so there's East Wenatchee, and that's like 60,000. That's like where we get all of our painters from, pretty much. That's like the big market. And then where we're like really based out of is about 30 minutes kind of up valley from that in a way. And it's like this kind of vacation rental spot. It's Leavenworth, Washington. It's kind of actually kind of a big deal. It's like a lot of Seattle people come over here to vacation, and it's like Bavarian themed. It's hilarious.
Awesome.
And so the whole thing is like 100,000, but that's like within like an hour and a half drive. And so like once you get out there really far, you can get some number of people, but like the main nucleus is like 65,000. So it's pretty small. I mean,
yeah.
And then it tells me it's a small market is like when I watch all these videos and people are saying like, oh, I put up a sub ad and I got, 40 applicants. Like we put up an ad for a sub and we get like 5 in a month or less, 4, 3. And like some of those are like not in English, and they're just like, it's just slim pickings. So
yeah. Well, and look, I'm not surprised you're using more employees because that's probably what you need to do in a smaller market. But you're also going to have easier time retaining employees in a smaller market as well.
Yep.
So no, it's all kind of par for the course, and I love the story. So what can I help you with on this call, man? What would you like to talk about?
Well, I guess because you don't really have a whole ton out there on like employees, and so I'm just kind of curious like how to. I mean, the guys are pretty good. We have 5 employees right now. We've gone through probably 8 total, so we fired 3.
Yeah.
So they've been pretty good. Like turnover's not bad, really. I don't know really, but just like how to incentivize them. Like I tried to kind of do this thing where we paid by piece, because when I first hired them, we were actually working on a big hotel.
Yeah.
Kind of like paid them per room, and that worked out beautifully. And then we started getting these jobs, like some of these big, like, because we do some stain work too, and like we'll take these like 2-week jobs, and so it's like stretching over pay periods, and it got really like convoluted and weird to pay them like by piece and stuff, like per job. So we just broke down. We just started paying them just hourly. But then what we do is we have this like target amount of hours, like it's a 60-hour job or something. And if they come in 55 hours, we just pay those last 5 hours to them as like a bonus. And so that was kind of incentive, and it's kind of working. But that was our best attempt at it. And I don't know, like
that's what I would do.
That,
the only difference is I would penalize them for going over that budget.
Yeah, but then I have a hard time. I just don't know how to do that legally in a way, because like you run into, I guess, minimum wage at that point, or like the whole by piece thing is hard because
you do run into minimum wage if they go way over that budget.
Yeah.
And the estimating standards, if you bid a job for 50 hours, like a door trim is 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
A decent painter should do that in 30 minutes or less.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
right.
They usually beat their hours, but there's some where we've worked our estimating in, especially with these stain projects, because we have to do those because we have a lot of them here. And there's been a big learning curve with like some of that, but the standard houses, every time we get just like a good, just cookie cutter house, we style it, and they come in 5-10 hours under and it looks good. So
yeah. And the ones that you're going over on, so there's kind of 2 sides to this. One is estimating, and it sounds like some of these stain jobs and the ones that are going long, you just need to bid them different.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually your guys being slow. I think it's like, oh, damn, this stain stuff can take way longer or way more stain or whatever. I would also incentivize them on the material budget as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, the material budget, because that's been a thing. Like, they're pretty good, and I really like the 2 leads that we have. I really like talk to them a lot about that, like being good with materials. Like, they don't waste brushes. They're pretty good about it, but just like a better model, I think, would have it, like, because I'm not always going to have such amazing leads, I guess. I just want to have like a model where it's like kind of in the system to be more good with materials. So I guess having a budget is kind of a good idea. And I don't really know. It's hard to kind of figure out how to do that with them, but I've been trying to play with it and see what's going on.
Well, you want to just aim for 50%.
Yeah.
To labor and materials, just like it would be a sub. And so maybe like 45 because you need to do equipment as well.
Yeah.
And equipment maintenance. So maybe it's 45 and you're willing to give them a 5% bonus if you get a referral from the job.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And so now you're at 50%, but every job turns into another job, so you can kind of start to get creative a little bit here and just see what works. I mean, there's not an answer. There's just what works. And if there's something that works better, and I'm constantly trying different things to see what's going to work better.
And that's been a thing for us and just trying to figure it out. But we've been pretty
Yeah.
lucky with our employees. They've been good. But
Yeah.
kind of hard to find a good system where it's just like, because I want to be able to, grow this thing obviously, and yeah, I just want to have like a system where it's less me kind of being involved and like being really hands on with the leads. I guess I want to kind of just have it in the system where.
Yeah. So a few things. So one is get your estimating dialed in. The
Mm-hmm.
second is incentivize the labor and incentivize the materials by giving them a bonus if they stay under those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And if they start going over, like on jobs they shouldn't be, you just need to be really tracking this and on top of this. And if it's bad, you need to institute what I used to do, which was, hey, this is a 60-hour job. I'm paying you 60 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they go 70, they still get 60. If they go 50, they get 60. If they go 100, they're at minimum wage and they're on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Or I really screwed up the bid.
Right.
Materials, that also is usually like, that's pretty straightforward to incentivize that. Now, once everything's bid right though, you want to look at just efficiency, like literally watch them. And I think I have a video. Have you seen the YouTube video about this?
Seen a lot of them. I think so. Where everybody's like, how to paint a house, like really quick with two guys, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so they're following. Yeah, they do. They prep the front, and then spray guy goes back to the beginning of the front and chases prep guy around the house, and then they both start trimming. And there's two main things that just destroy the budget. The first one is touch-ups, because you don't plan any time for touch-ups.
No.
But a lot of crews will leave touch-ups and they have to do another lap around the house. Dude, touch-ups will add 4 or 5 hours. That's 10% more time
right
on a house. That's a 10% change in their pay.
Yeah.
So how you do that is you make sure on that second lap around the house, anything to the right of them is done.
Right.
Like before they walk down the ladder, they're looking, So that's one thing is touch-ups.
Yep.
Second thing is cleanup, making sure they take the time up front to mask well, put down drop sheets, and do it right and clean the first time. That's the other one. You don't bid time for cleanup.
No.
The third thing is you don't bid time for moving ladders or climbing up and down ladders.
Yeah.
So if they're prepping a second story window, you don't want them going up there with a scraper, scraping it, come down, get the sandpaper, go up, do that, come down, get the primer, go up, come down, get the masker and go up. That you want them to have a bucket and take everything up the ladder with them, do it all, and then come down.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking like, dude, I could triple how much time prepping a window takes if they are coming up and down the ladder.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And that's something that I could be better about. Like they're pretty autonomous now. And so I haven't really seen how they work very well. Like, because I've just been busy just selling jobs and doing a bunch of other shit.
Right.
So yeah, I should probably go watch them and make sure, because they went over on one house that was kind of like, it was a tall house and it was kind of had some weird ladder access. And I think it's whenever time we get kind of like weird access like that, they kind of start going over. And I try to bid that in, but it's hard to.
I need to bid a little more time in, and then at the sale, really hype up how much more work this is going to be because of that access.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
It's a price thing, and it's not like you're bullshitting people. You just it really does take a lot more. It's dangerous, man. Like, look, if I'm at a house and there's 3-story walkout basement and the sides are sloped with rocks on them, I get out here and I'm like, oh, this looks fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'll say that to them. I'm like, oh, this looks fun. This looks nice and safe over here. And then I kind of like joke about how dangerous it is. And then I'm like, no, look, on a serious note, like it is dangerous to be on slopes like this. We do have ladder levelers, but a side like this, we can't my guys aren't like reaching outside the ladder on stuff like this. So this side is going to take a lot more time. Like I'm going to definitely have to add a bunch of time here because this side's going to be a lot tougher to do.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, understood, you know?
Yeah. People are good about that. Yeah. It's just been tough kind of figuring that out. It's just all learning though. That's not really a question. Yeah. Just figuring it out.
So those are the main things, man. With employees, it's incentivize the labor and materials, and then get those basic things, no touch-ups, no cleanup, minimize ladder movements. And then the next thing is just combing back through to see where they can do things faster and more efficiently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And taking the time to do that is important, because here's one of the things like I'm learning in my business right now is I keep getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I didn't do that thoroughly enough. So I go back and redo something. And then I start again. I'm like, oh, I still didn't do it thoroughly enough. So I go back.
Hey.
You know what I'm doing, man, is I'm literally like, we've been in business for however long. We kind of readjusted. We kind of started over. Like, this is our direction now as a company. And so this year is the foundation. And I've probably taken like our production manager position from like 16 or 18 SOPs to like 48. And I probably took those 16, they might've been like 32 to 35 pages long. Now it's like 150.
Whoa.
And I'm just like, damn, we just aren't thorough and detailed enough. And one of the big things I'm working on now is just before this call, I spent 2 hours making competency models for how we're going to track the competency of a production manager and every other position in our company for every single one of those skill sets.
Right.
Because once that's done, now I can bring in the right person. I'm doing the same thing in recruiting and my job ads. And I mean, we got 400 applicants to hire our 3 new production managers. We got I'm sorry, that's not true. It was 250 for that. We got 400 applicants to hire a salesperson recently.
Man, I'm jealous.
That's how many we went through to hire the right person. Because we're going to invest a lot into training that person.
For sure.
And then they're going to be really successful because it's the right person trained really well. And then I don't need to worry about it. I can move on to the next thing. So doing less stuff more thoroughly, more completely is a faster path to building a business.
Yeah.
So slowing down and getting that crew really dialed in, it's not just about dialing that crew in. It's about creating a model so that the next crew you bring on,
right, totally,
get up to that spot in a month. So if you only get these current crews to this level, then when you bring on a new crew, you'll get them to that level. But if you stop and say, hold on, we're going to slow this growth, even if it means raising prices a little because there's more demand than you're going to supply for now, that's fine. If you can get this existing crew to this level, then when you bring the next crew on, you'll get them to that level faster. And then the next one there. And so I want to maximize the value of each position before I duplicate those positions. Otherwise, it's just that many more people I need to retrain.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I'm trying to figure out how do I get my production manager position to be able to make $100,000 a year, deliver 35, 40K a week in production flawlessly with tons of referrals.
Yeah.
If I can get that figured out, then I'm like, cool, I can go and hire people for $100,000 a year for this job and it's wildly profitable for everyone involved. Now I'm ready to like scale something. So I thought it was going to be like this year that we're going to be dialing in all of our foundational systems. I think it's going to take us 2 years. I think it's going to be like this year and half of next year before we're like, okay, now we're ready to like pour gas on the fire and just go crazy.
For sure. Nice.
I would do the same thing with employees. And I will actually do the same thing with employees because I think there's some benefit to employees in some situations. But I got to get some other things dialed in first. And then it's like move into employees. So you want to start looking at, every little piece. Like when I do build this employee model, I'm going to be looking at like building a standard operating procedure for every step of the way. Like what happens when they arrive on site? Where do they store equipment? How do they store equipment? How do they clean equipment? How do you mask a window? How do you prep a board? How do you communicate with the client? How do you clean up at the end of the day? How do you lay down a drop sheet and masking to make sure there's zero cleanup? How do you hit touch-ups around the house when you're done? How do you inspect your work before moving the ladder to make sure you don't ever have to redo work?
Right.
I would be looking at how many things can I come up with to make this as systemized as possible.
It's a good idea, for sure.
Because the reality is, man, is if you get a crew really, really dialed in, you should be able to produce at more like 40%. And everybody be making great money.
Right, for sure.
And that's what I want to get to for our company because I think we're just leaving money on the table because we're inefficient, because we haven't invested enough in this.
Gotcha. Yeah. There are some benefits to employees and stuff, but it's a lot of background work with employees though too. That's a lot of stuff. Like we had to get a little warehouse and things like that for our because we have the 2 crews and they run in 2 trailers, 2 5x8 trailers that they tow around. Sorry, somebody's.
You're good.
Can you hear me? Somebody,
Kitchen's
remodeled. But yeah, anyway, so there's just a lot of that kind of overhead stuff, but a lot of that's already done because we have 2 full crews that are going and we're kicking butt. So
man.
But some other questions I had on the team building thing, because we're kind of knocking on the door here of hiring a production manager. I mean, our numbers are looking pretty good, and I love my time, and so I don't mind working my ass off, but I want to hire somebody just so I can take more time. So I'm just kind of monkey.
If you're selling $300,000 and you're running a couple crews, that's appropriate to do that.
I was actually just watching the videos this morning about like all the hitting numbers and all that stuff, and I got them all written down, and we're really close for sure. Like we're pretty much there in a lot of ways. And so I'm just wondering, like, I guess it's hard for us in the small market. I don't even know if I have an answer to this, but it's just like we put up an ad for a production manager and we got one applicant, and it was like no, just a no-go. You know, I mean, like we tried Indeed, and I was wondering like if there's other avenues, like if we should like, I almost thought about kind of like going with the friend route in a way, you know, like people that I know are like competent and like can kind of lead people, you know, and just like kind of have a lot of those qualities and try to just like sort of sucker them into this, and not really sucker them in, but just like sell them on it and just them. Yeah, I don't know. It's just hard to kind of take that step when we're kind of in a smaller.
I would look to see how I can make a better offer than anybody else. And I'd be willing to overpay now because it's going to enable me to grow.
Right.
So I'd be willing to overpay so that I can be a desirable job. And then, yeah, I would go the friend route. I'd network the paint stores. I would network. I would use LinkedIn.
Oh,
And
LinkedIn.
I would approach people directly. I would direct message people who are in construction or work at a paint store, work at a construction store, a hardware store, or have been in project management of some sort.
Yeah.
You're going to have to just get aggressive and be patient.
Yeah.
The other option is existing employees. And if any of them want to start to get groomed and see if any of your lead foremen can start to take over some of those responsibilities for an extra $5 an hour, you could start to turn your crews into their own schedulers.
Right. Yeah.
Is another option. And the nice thing about that is you could turn that into like almost a career, like where these guys, the lead guy makes 50 grand a year, the other guy makes 40 grand a year, but they do all their own scheduling.
Yeah.
You know, and they, you know, so it's 90,000, but they produce 200 grand and then they buy materials. So you're at like 56 to 58%.
Mm-hmm.
But that's after the PM too.
Right, exactly.
So that's another option is
good. That is a good
more
route.
empowered crews.
That makes sense. Yeah, and some of the crews actually, the one guy who's been with me the longest, he seems like he'd be probably that might be a good move to at least talk to him about it, see if he thought about it. So
yeah, so I think like the principles is, you know, you need someone to take over the responsibilities you currently have. Yep. And the other thing too is you could divide that position up a little bit and have a lot of the scheduling just run through the office with your wife or you.
Yep, right.
Or someone you can hire, which is like a secretary or an office manager for 20 hours a week for 15 an hour.
Yeah.
And have that person kind of do the communication and the scheduling.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So you can get rid of half of the time and then train the crew and give them promotion. So you're like, look, I'm not going to paint stores anymore. I'm going to train you on pre-job walkarounds, final walkarounds, and job profitability. And when you hit these targets, it's a big incentive, like a few percent on a job or 5% on a job. And then the office manager is $300 a week. So that's 15 grand a year. You just got yourself, you basically handled all those responsibilities for maybe 30 grand a year, right? Or maybe even 40 grand a year, but without needing a production manager.
For sure.
So there might be another way to look at that too.
Yeah, and we're actually kind of almost there in a way. Like the only production things I do, because the employee leads are actually trained to, you know, communicate with the customer, and then they do the walkthroughs and everything, and I just get the folders from them, and, you know, I just essentially collect all the, you know, we actually have like feedback forms where they talk about, you know, how much materials they used, and they give me that, and I look through it and all that stuff, and they have this thing, you know, like the customer sign when they walk through. So that's like all really dialed. The thing that I do mostly with production would probably be really good for like an office person. It's just like taking all the things we've sold and just matching them with subs and employees in different crews. Like that's mostly what my time is spent doing. And then communicating with the people, right? And like telling them like, hey, you know, your job's coming up or whatever, and kind of doing that thing. But yeah, that's a good point. Like that's, because other than that, I'm not really, you know, everybody's kind of pretty dialed on kind of getting their own materials and things like that. And I don't think there's really much left to production other than that. So that could work out really well.
Yeah. So if you write down like, hey, here's all the stuff I want done. Here's kind of and do the thinking of like, here's what I need someone to do. What kind of characteristics am I looking for? What kind of person is this? You know, who would be the perfect person for this? And what's that position? It might be office manager. It might be executive assistant. It might be, you know, I don't know, but I would take that route too, because I don't know that you need a full-blown office manager with the way your market's operating.
Yeah, no, just somebody like it's like just a scheduler, really. I mean, honestly, So yeah, that could work out really well. Cool. Yeah.
And in general, that's how I would manage my time. Is I would just look at, I would write down on a piece of paper, what did I do all week and how much time did I spend on it all? And then I see which things do I want to get rid of, and can I just stop doing them? Can I automate those things? Can I delegate them to someone else? And I just keep doing that process forever.
Yeah.
And then I'm down to 20 hours a week. Then I add that stuff. Then I'm at 40. Then I chop it back to 20. Then I add the 40. Then I chop it to 20. Then I add to 40. Then I chop it to 40. And at some point, I'm just going to chop it all the way down and just take my cash flow.
Right. Yeah. That would be ideal. Sweet. Yeah. No, that's great. That's a good idea. So yeah, I guess it's just got to play out a little bit differently than you kind of lay out in the bigger markets, you know, like with the big, because they just don't have that same luxury of kind of having, you know, a bunch of, you know, applicants and things like that. So I got to kind of think of it a little bit differently and just try to fill that role in another way. So
awesome, man. Cool. Any other questions before we wrap up here, man?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I just wanted to also say thank you, because it's funny, I think about this when I go back and I'm like, this, you know, this painting business, it's, you know, very successful now. I mean, it's paying the bills for us and we're loving it. And I just think back and I'm like, holy crap, like, I don't even know what I would be, how the business would look or what I'd be doing if I didn't stumble across the course. Like, it's really, yeah, no, it's really cool. I mean, I think about that a lot and I'm like,
that's awesome, man.
I got so much out of it and I didn't really take advantage of it. Like I said, that first year, or really the second year, but man, we're just following the heck out of that thing and it's carrying us places. So it's, yeah, pretty good.
I love it, man. Cool. I'm just taking some notes on our call. Good stuff though, man. I think it's really interesting because, you know, there's a lot of people who are in smaller markets.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to kind of hear that story about like, hey, what if I'm not in a major metro? Like, how do we do it? And I think you've done an awesome job of that with capitalizing on the small town, Google, SEO, you know, like your rankings there, just referrals and word of mouth. And any other things that have helped you a ton with a smaller market that you've done a little differently or learned about it?
No, we already talked about the home show was huge. There was a couple things that really helped us, that really boosted us into it. We got a really big hotel job where we painted like 40 hotel rooms in this hotel, which that was also had to do with like the small market thing. Like I walked around all these hotels and like said like, hey, do you need, you know, the inside of these things painted? And they, you know, we did that. And so that was but that's not really much different. So, but then that home show thing was just huge. That just boosted us into like a whole nother category. And now we were kind of like in around Leavenworth, the small town. And then the home show was kind of in the bigger market, the big, like, you know, 60,000 market thing. So that kind of brought us back down into that market, that bigger market. So now we have kind of our word of mouth up here in the upper valley, and then like our kind of just like home show word of mouth now down valley. So that was huge. That home
That's
show
great.
Crazy cool. So
we'll just keep testing stuff, man. You never know what's gonna work, so keep it up, man. But I think it sounds like your next big move is this hire to free up some of your time.
Yeah, for sure, because I love my time.
I think that'll probably make more sense to go that route rather than a full-blown production manager. But I think you also need to get more aggressive. So
yeah, sure. No, I like those ideas of kind of like just being more pursuit of it, like just actually like going out and, you know, meeting people that are possible and just actually like making a bigger effort.
And don't be desperate. That's the last piece of advice I'll give you is don't be desperate, because you want to hire someone so bad and because you're not getting many applicants, there's a higher likelihood of you hiring the wrong person because this is the best I'm going to get. Right. You're better off waiting another month or 2 months or even 3 months to get the right person for the next 3 years instead of the wrong person, because you'll just be replacing them in 6 months anyway. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And you might miss that right person while you've got the wrong person on the team. Definitely. Nice. I've learned that lesson too many times. Yeah. So I'll help you out with that one. Wait it out. Get the right person. Exactly. I'm sure I'll go through somebody though, and I'll realize that I'm good at making mistakes, and so I'll probably get the wrong person at first, no matter what you say. So. Yeah, that's fine, man. We all got to learn things the hard way. All right, cool, Grant. Hey, it was great talking with you, man, and congrats. Awesome. Thanks. All right, brother. Keep me posted. All right, will do. Okay. Have a great day, man. See ya.